Welcome to the Regenerative Agriculture, Thriving as a Modern Rancher, the podcast for ranchers and land stewards looking to build healthy land, profitable businesses, and a fulfilling life. Join us as we explore regenerative practices and holistic management to help you thrive in today's ranching world. So often when we think about solving hunger and poverty, we think in parts. That all they need is food, or all they need is money, livestock, or even aid. But regeneration really asks us for a whole system. Today, we're talking about what happens when communities aren't treated as recipients, but as partners that we're collaborating with. And with that, I invited Donna Kilpatrick, who is Director of Regeneration at Heifer International. Donna, if you would just give a quick introduction to yourself, and for those that may not know, if you could share the core mission of Heifer International.
Yeah, absolutely. So Christine, thank you so much for having me. I know we've talked about sitting down together for so long and it's finally happening. I just so appreciate you having me on. Yeah, so my name's Donna Kilpatrick. I'm the Director of Regeneration at Heifer USA, which is one of the country programs with Heifer International. And Heifer International's mission is to end hunger and poverty and care for the earth. And that is also the mission of Heifer USA. We really focus on farmer training. So we have a 1,200-acre ranch in Perryville, Arkansas, that is really a living laboratory for bringing in farmers and teaching them regenerative principles, and then they can take those principles and use them to implement practices based on their context. So that's what we do.
Beautiful. So how has Heifer evolved from those years of just livestock donations to more of a holistic community-based systems?
Yeah, so when Heifer started, Dan West, the founder in the Spanish Civil War, was really looking for a solution to the hunger that he was seeing, and was noticing that lots of aid organizations were giving a quick fix like powdered milk. And he was like, there's got to be a better way. And so the parable or whatever, teach a man to fish. He was thinking from that perspective, that from a farming background, from a farming community, and being part of the Church of the Brethren, what if we gave the community a cow? That would be a more sustainable solution to their struggles with hunger than being reliant on a donation of powdered milk. So that's how the whole concept started. And we have been predominantly a livestock-based organization working within communities and working through the cornerstones, 12 cornerstones that really focus on allow the community to work together and build their value system, what they want as a community, and how the gift of livestock or learning how to garden, whatever it is that they decide to do, will help them thrive together. So we don't work with individuals, we work with communities.
And with the main premise of you're helping them be more resilient, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, without a doubt. So the 19 countries that we work with, I feel like in the United States, there's been a loss of resiliency, but in many of the countries that we work with, because of climate change, because of government structures that are not resilient, or there's just so many more issues and opportunities for collapse within those communities. And so we're teaching people, yes, how to be more resilient. It's beyond living income. We do have these metrics that we work towards, and a lot of times it's like a living income. It's more than that. It's about wellness. It's about quality of life. It's about all the things that make you feel resilient. And that is way more than money.
Yeah. So does that change the organization is global? You're dealing with many cultures, many different values. And so it's
Mhm.
going to look different everywhere, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And yeah, it's going to look very different. That's why earlier when I was saying we've really focused on, in terms of our term caring for the earth, that's always been a part of our mission, but we've been doing a deeper dive. What does that mean, caring for the earth? And it's sort of, after lots of work, it's really funneling down to these regenerative principles and not practices because of that context. There's so many countries that work differently. There's practices that work here in the United States that aren't going to work well, say, in another country that we work with. So just really learning what that context is, what works and doesn't work, and know that things are not the same everywhere.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, many of my listeners are fellow land stewards that are working towards regenerative agriculture. So how does Heifer, and how do you, because you're the director of Regeneration, approach soil health and livestock management and ecological restoration?
Yeah, so I would say that I am the director of Regeneration for Heifer USA. So my context is definitely here in the United States. Now, I do work in other countries. I've done some projects in Honduras, and I'm getting ready to go to Ecuador in a week and a half to work on a bird project, which I'm really excited about. But in the United States, honestly, it's pretty straightforward. We have 1,200 acres of land that for the past 30 years have been, now about 35 years. 35 years ago, we started leasing out land to farmers in our community, and without a lot of stipulation on how the land was treated. So at that point, Heifer Ranch was teaching mostly school groups and some faith-based organizations that would come to the ranch, teaching them about Heifer's work, Heifer's mission throughout the world. Wasn't focused specifically on farmer livelihoods or farmers in the United States. In 2018, I believe, we switched gears and started really thinking about farmers in the United States, that this piece of land could better be used by actually scaling up our farming practices and teaching farmers in the area how to take a step towards regenerative principles and away from conventional, which we felt like we're seeing a lot of degradation in basically in every aspect of our ecology and our ecosystem. Health is deteriorating because of our decisions and our management. So we decided to scale up livestock production. We needed more positive impact from our grazers on the land, and to really focus on production, which was going at that time towards Grassroots Farmers Cooperative, which we helped start in 2014. That shifted a little bit. Now we grow a few things for Grassroots, but really our primary focus is on training farmers and using this ranch to train farmers. But how we do it, I said it was simple. It's really using the soil health principles, and also we're a savory hub. So we really believe in holistic decision making, using a holistic framework to ensure that all of our management decisions are pointing us to our context and to our North Star. We just, for the first time ever last week, we trained the entire staff in holistic management.
Fabulous.
Yeah. So,
Fabulous.
and yes, and I'm so glad I mentioned that earlier in a different conversation, that we have a new senior country director. And I'm so pleased that she understands and is on board with really learning this framework and how we use it to ensure that every department at the ranch, if it's the maintenance shop or livestock team or accounting folks, that we've developed our context, our North Star together, and that we're all making decisions that are heading us to that and the future that we want to create together. And it's great. I'm really excited about it.
So Donna, Heifer is international. Are other countries implementing the holistic management framework?
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, so I've been working with Heifer Honduras, and they have implemented this beautiful holistic plain grazing program that I've been privileged enough to go and visit a couple of times and help with. I would say help very loosely. They're doing an amazing job, and I've been privileged enough to go and experience it with them. Farmers that were having to clear cut more land, slash and burn methods, and being able to bring in solar, just like Gallagher fence chargers, and set up polywire and start breaking these huge paddocks down into small sections, bunching up animals. And that what they've been able to do is amazing. And not having to sell animals during the dry season. They have enough forage, they're able to stockpile. The farmers talk about seeing wildlife come back that they haven't seen in years. So a radical shift with implementing holistic planned grazing in Honduras.
So you mentioned the forest and the slash and burn. So are you insinuating that they don't have to go clear more land because now they're getting more productivity, land that's already cleared? So then they
Yes,
keep the forest, and then they have that whole ecosystem functioning.
Absolutely. And not having to sell animals. They would get in a pickle with not any forage during the dry season. And what can we do? We can either cut more trees down and make more pasture, or we can sell our animals. So two decisions that weren't ideal in any, and they've been able to stop both.
I know you've been working with Honduras. Is Ecuador also going to start using holistic management? Because you said you were visiting them.
Yeah, I am. So Heifer USA, about a year and a half ago, started working with Audubon. So we're part of the Audubon Conservation Ranching Program. And this is a program that I really love. And I'm so excited that we were able to pull together some grant money to allow Audubon to work in Arkansas now. So I believe they're working with 2 or 3 farms in Arkansas. We're one of them that we've had our baseline bird counts done and all of that. And we're going to expand and offer that to more farmers in Arkansas. But yeah, we think that birds, like I feel very passionate about this. Like we've seen the decline of things like the bobwhite quail and meadow larks. And most of that is due to conventional agriculture and removing the habitat that these birds need. So in Central America, with coffee growers, cacao growers, I don't know all the ins and outs of the study yet, but it's with the American Bird Conservancy, I believe, a project that is looking at implementing, is it ARUs, the recording devices?
Oh, yeah.
And so I'm taking a bunch of those with me, and my new boss, who's our new country director, she's also going, and she's taking a suitcase full of them. So we're going to be putting these up in different communities of cacao growers and coffee growers in Ecuador, and I guess implementing a study that's going to look at what types of management on this land increase bird populations, and can birds be seen as a proxy for ecosystem health. And I would say here, from my experience, looking at 6 years ago compared to where we are today, birds are definitely a proxy for ecosystem health.
I agree with you. I've seen such an increase in birds on my place.
It's insane. It's insane. Yeah.
I don't know all the birds, but that app that you can record
Merlin.
them. Yes. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's fabulous app.
It is. Yes. So at the ranch, like we have so many beautiful birds that come through, and we've seen. I saw a bald eagle yesterday. 6 years ago, I never saw bald eagle. We see them all the time. Like people on our WhatsApp farm group, ranch group, picture of a bald eagle, whatever, and it happens all the time. But do you know an indigo bunting? Do you know what those look like? They're blue.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I've seen a photo. I haven't seen one in person.
So we've had indigo buntings. We had a few when I started here. Now we're covered up in them. But there's also a painted bunting. And it looks like someone let some kind of tropical bird out into the wild. This thing is multicolored, beautiful, stunning. So a couple years ago, I guess 2 years ago, I was driving, and I'm like, the day we get a painted bunting, I'll know we've arrived. with our ecosystem health. So I was driving and my little side by side down the road, I saw a painted bunting and I almost went in the ditch. So I found out where it was flying back and forth between the maintenance shop and some pine trees. So I started watching it. Now they're so common that it's like painted bunting.
Oh, that's amazing. But that that hasn't stopped you from improving the ecosystem.
Oh, yeah. Never in a billion years. I think it's really interesting. Like, we'll keep working on the ecosystem health as we've increased our soil organic matter so much in 6 years. It's interesting. People say it takes, I remember people used to hear, oh, it takes so long to regenerate land. It's not. Change your management and you will see nature respond.
Can you share the increase in organic matter for the listeners?
Yeah. So, yeah, we've had pastures that were at 0.5 that have gone up to 4.23.
That's amazing.
Yeah, we've seen 4 and 5 point increases in 6
That's
years.
amazing. Well done, you.
No, well done, staff. Well done. Increase of animal impact, positive impact, all of those things.
Sure.
Yeah.
So how do we balance as a smallholder? Because when we talk internationally, it's not thousands of acres like we're used to here in the States. It's the small acreage. How do we balance that environmental sustainability with the financial viability of all of this?
It's tough. It really is tough. Like, how many farmers in the United States are making a living?
Exactly, not very many. And the suicide rate is higher than veterans with PTSD. No, it's tragic.
Exactly.
Tragic.
Yep. Yeah, it's a tough road to hoe. And I don't know. I feel like in some ways, is it even ethical to try to get people to become farmers? Maybe not. Like, we need people to grow food.
We do.
We also need to work with farmers who are growing conventionally to share and hopefully share to the point that they want to take a step towards regeneration. I think that it's an incredible balancing act of profitability, quality of life, all of those things. Not only is farming not profitable, but it is a hard way to make a living. Some enterprises are harder than others. And the ones that don't take the barriers to entry, like poultry, that is a hard way to make a living. And yes, it can be profitable. So there's all of this balancing act. And when we think about, I mentioned earlier that we've, as an organization, we really used to focus on living income. And we're seeing that, and I would say this is a holistic view. Like, our impact as an organization, of course, people need to make a living, for sure. But there's more than that. There's more than that. And it has to do with quality of life, has to do with wellness. It has to do with physical health, which is part of wellness, but not all of it. It has to do with your relationships with your neighbors, with your family. All of those things are critically important. And when we think about regeneration at Heifer USA and also within Heifer International, we're not just talking about ecosystem health. We're talking about ecosystem economics and the health of the community. So it's a social component too. And it needs to be, for us, we're starting to really view it as it needs to be equally as important as the financial aspect of it.
Sure. Yeah, because you could be making a lot of money and still be and work 80 hours a week and be exhausted and be stressed and miserable, and your relationships are all strained. So yeah, it is a balance. And that's where the holistic management framework and the decision making aspect is so critical.
So
right?
critical.
Those decision testing questions really help you consider all of these other factors. It's not all about money.
Absolutely.
It's not all about the environment. They're all these variables that we need to balance.
Yep.
And yeah, the decision testing questions was my biggest aha when I learned the framework. And my first thought was, gosh, dang it, if I had only known this before, I would have made so many better decisions in my past.
Yeah, absolutely. And you go through holistic management and you start using those questions, it can be clunky. Like
Oh, it's very cumbersome, very cumbersome.
Yeah, I used to have them like taped in my side by side and taped in the truck and taped on the wall. They're not on the wall anymore because eventually you start going through this, the questions very quickly. But yes, they definitely have shifted the way we make decisions for sure, but also the outcome of those decisions.
Of course.
Yeah, of course. And I'll give you a quick, so this is even before we had staff members besides a couple of us that were trained in holistic management. I was meeting with Christine, who's the livestock manager, and Tim Nacky, who is our facilities and maintenance manager, both incredible people and very good at what they do. And we're so fortunate to have them. And we were meeting and we were talking about how we water our animals, how we get water to our animals, and should we consider putting in wells or should we pump from the river or all these things. And so we started going through the decision filtering questions, and not like overtly because they hadn't been trained in holistic management, but just thinking through. And what we came up with, which was so radically different than I thought we would, and I was really happy, it ended up being a social thing. And the social component was that as a nonprofit, we don't pay a lot of taxes to the town of Perryville. We actually water our animals with city water. And some people would be like, oh my God, what are you thinking? It's not that expensive, to be honest with you. But we started thinking about that, and we decided that we don't really know how much of the money helps support the town, but it is one major contribution that we make to the town of Perryville. And so we decided to just not do anything, to keep doing what we're doing. Beautiful. And that was definitely through the framework.
Beautiful. So one of the things that I really like about the decision testing questions is that first question: are we addressing the root cause versus the symptom?
Yeah.
And as soon as it was mentioned, I recognized that I had gone through the same process when I first started to feel sick. And I do ranching and I do all this because I healed myself of all these symptoms by addressing the root cause, which was the quality, the nutrition of the food that I was eating.
Yep.
And when I went to the first doctor and he's like, oh, here's a prescription to help you, I said, no, I want to fix this. So he was treating a symptom, and I eventually determined that the root cause was the quality of the food that I was eating from the processed food. Yes, I would love to crack macaroni and cheese.
That's so funny.
I haven't eaten it in decades now, but that root cause is so critical in our decision making, so that we're spending money at the right place, so that we're getting a return on our labor, on our time. Yeah, huge.
Yeah, that's interesting. When we taught holistic management last week to the team, and we were going through the filtering questions, we were talking about root cause. We were having folks throw out examples of sometimes you treat the symptoms, not the root cause. And we did talk about Western medicine. Like, that's what we do. We go, we have a 15-minute appointment with a doctor and we treat the symptoms. Yeah. And we're not taking a holistic approach like you would in Chinese medicine or other forms of medicine and wellness.
So speaking of wellness, before we started the recording, you and I both shared that, we've worked on ourselves for all sorts of different reasons.
Yep.
And from my own experience, and as I work with more and more land stewards in workshops or coaching one-on-one, the human is the weakest link in the operation in general.
Mm.
You know, our mindset, our stress, our knowledge is always impacting our decisions. I had to recognize this the hard way when, you know, the result of my decisions caused cash flow issue. I had to recognize it the hard way. I came from a very controlled environment in my corporate career, and I brought that same mindset to working with nature. And we just can't control nature. We can't control livestock. And I was getting physically angry, upset when those cattle left the paddock that I spent so much time making.
Yeah.
And recognizing, having that awareness, this isn't right. So how does Heifer help support the human in the operation, and what can we do to help them?
Oh gosh, that's a big question. And I think I don't know. I think I want to answer it by talking about how we support our employees first, because I think that then trickles into how we work with communities. But the context of communities is so different. I would say it's a very human approach. It's a very, we're committed to working with women and youth. Most of the farmers in the world are women throughout the world. And yet they have very little access to own land or be a decision maker. Yet they are the labor force. So we take a human approach, a wellness approach with our work within communities. We do a cornerstones training that really, really gets to things like gender inequity and gender relationships and spirituality and whatever that looks like for folks and the importance of that. But here at the ranch, I think that, yes, we are a nonprofit, and that makes us different than a traditional farm, obviously. But we also are a living, breathing ranch with hundreds and hundreds of animals and livestock and farmers that are talented and gifted and are here working because they love it and they love our mission, but they also love farming. We have mostly women working on the livestock team, and how many? Four of our livestock team have small children. So we really recognize that it is really important for those parents to have time with their kids. And so we've added staff, we've added a lot of flexibility in the work schedule for people to be able to do what they love here at the ranch, but also have quality of life at home. So yeah, I think that's really important. And I think it makes us, and as I said before, yes, we're a nonprofit, we're different, but I think that just recognizing that, I think it's work-life balance, but it's more than that. It's really, to me, it's about wellness and really focusing on what individuals need, because that we have staff that don't have kids, they have needs too. So what can we do to enable them to express their individual genius, whatever that is?
That's beautiful. We talked before we started the recording that I have experienced, and maybe you have experienced the same, that at workshops that I facilitate, workshops that I host, land stewards that I'm coaching are mostly women. They understand the need for regeneration because they're concerned about climate, they're concerned about food quality, they're concerned about what they're going to leave their children and grandchildren. And so they understand this. But agriculture has always tended to be a more male dominated industry. So it's very masculine. And not that we don't need that masculine, not that we don't need the logic. We need the data, we need the research, we need to understand the how.
Mhm.
But women bring in a whole different aspect to caring for the land, to caring for the community, caring for the relationships.
Yeah.
And I find that because of this culture, at least here in the US, and I'm sure in other countries it's even more predominant, women tend to defer to that masculine aspect.
Mm.
When I host a workshop, the women are not the ones asking the questions, it's the guys. Women tend to wait until a break or after the workshop to come and approach me one-on-one to ask.
Yeah.
I recently had a workshop where I had a couple that they've just moved to the area, completely different environment. And she was curious. She wanted to understand the why. But every time she raised her hand, she goes, I know this is a stupid question.
Yeah.
And it made me angry
Yeah.
because she has every right to ask her questions. She does not need to degrade, I don't even know the word.
Disempower. Yeah.
Disempower. She has every right, authority to look at things this way. It might be different than the rest. So how do we help shift that women are given more agency in these agricultural systems? Because we do need the feminine. Regenerative agriculture and the 6 principles have done a fabulous job of making us understand that nature is important, but we need it to bring in those feminine traits, the nurturing, the relationship, the collaboration, the instinct. We're led by instinct. Not that men aren't. How do we help that? Because those things are important to regeneration.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I don't know. I think that in regenerative agriculture, the feedback loop is so critical. And the observation, I feel like women farmers, women land stewards are so incredibly attuned with that rhythm of nature. And I think it's a biological function of being female. So I think that there's a natural, I've always heard that women make better milkers, like in a dairy farm.
Yeah.
That's where I started my career in agriculture, was in dairy. I can definitely see that, like just being more in tune with, like I said, the natural rhythm
The
of
rhythm
nature,
of the seasons.
yeah,
The monthly cycles with the mute moon and all of that stuff.
All of that stuff. Yeah. I guess the question is, how do you get people out of their comfort zone to ask the question, to be, I don't know if I like the word empowered, but to feel comfortable enough in themselves to be willing to take a risk? I don't know. I'm asking this from just coming off of this experience in Petaluma, California, where I went through this life-changing experience called the Hoffman process. And all of this, every question that you just asked, we did a deep dive on in 9 days, in the most intensive personal work that I've ever done. And really looking at things like our patterns to say things to ourselves that you wouldn't say that to a friend.
No, I know. We're so hard on ourselves.
We're so incredibly hard on ourselves. One of our teachers at Hoffman, he drew like a ski slope, and he was talking about our neuro pathways and how when we say things to ourselves, like I'm not enough, or, oh, I can never get that job, or I can't drive that tractor, my husband needs to do it. When we say these things over and over and over and over, we're just like digging into that ski rut that it gets deeper and you can't get out of it. And just the process of literally the process at Hoffman is to become aware of those patterns that we pick up as children, that we're doing it unconsciously. We can't control this. It's just how we think. And they're negative. These patterns are negative, and they're usually about ourselves or about what we think about other people or whatever. And just really drawing awareness to that, oh, I have this pattern. Like, this is a pattern that I've picked up, and then learning how to express it. So, moving your body and expressing this thing that you want to change, forgiveness, compassion, and then moving to new ways of being. So starting the ski slope and starting making those new neural pathways of course I can drive a tractor. Why is it that someone has to have a penis to drive a tractor? Like, why would we think that? Yeah. And of course, I'm great. I'm enough. So just building those new thought patterns. Anyway, it was a life-changing experience, and I would highly recommend it to anyone. It's called the Hoffman process, and their logo is when you're serious about change.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of somatic work done too, right?
So much somatic work. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And for those that don't know, somatic is just the movement of your body. As simple as hugging yourself, right?
Yes.
That would be a somatic. If
Yep.
many of us have trauma, a small t trauma from childhood that we wish our parents had done something right. We go back, and as 50, 60, 70-year-old selves, we go back to the 10-year-old to say, you're okay, you're wonderful, you're brilliant, whatever it is that we needed to hear at that time.
Yeah. And 5 years ago, thinking about doing some of this work, I would have been like, that is
I know.
too woo for me. Yeah. I'm not doing that. Yeah. But it's life-changing. It's life-changing. And I feel happier and more grounded, sure of myself, content than I think I have ever in my life.
You look it. I haven't seen you in a while, and you look it, and you've lost weight, which is fabulous.
Thank you. Yes, I have. And we were talking about this earlier. So many times in my life, so many times. I can remember when I turned 40, I was like, this year is going to be the year that I'm going to get in shape. Many years later, it never happened. And I will set myself up for failure every single time I do that. And it's just a pattern. It's a pattern. Yeah, so this year, when I was going through a tough time, just in so many aspects of my life, and wondering if I was in the right field of work, even though this is the joy of my life, I still was just doubting everything. I became anxious, and I've never dealt with anxiety in my life. And when people would talk about anxiety, I'd be like, how bad could it be? Let me tell you how bad it can be. It can destroy you. Like, I had no earthly idea. I felt like I was coming unglued. And I started one day, I was like, I don't know what to do. I'm going to go for a walk. So I walked for about 3 miles. I came home and I was like, okay, I actually feel like I can breathe. I feel better. I don't feel like my insides are trembling. So I started doing it every day. And it became a sort of a lifeline for this anxiety that I was dealing with. And the positive benefit was I lost a lot of weight. So yeah, I feel great.
Isn't it wonderful when that happens?
Yeah, it is.
So what I'm hearing and what I think I'm trying to share is the masculine has done a fabulous job of doing agriculture the way that we're progressing, but how do I want to say this? These aspects of being human has never been something that has been addressed. And there is no safe container, there is no safe place to say, F you this, I'm frustrated, I like you, I love what I'm doing, but there's days of I want out of here.
Totally.
you
Yeah.
know. So there, and whether we're just becoming more attuned to this, I find that there's really no space for us to be able to come and share, I'm struggling today, I'm stressed today. As an example, I experienced some cash flow issues, and I learned my pattern is I disassociate.
Hmm.
I disassociate. I'd much rather go watch stream Outlander series and Netflix
Yeah.
than address the whatever's causing the stress. It's like I can't handle it. It's too
Yep.
much. And
Yeah.
and as a solopreneur here, that doesn't bode well for the business if I'm not addressing it.
Yes.
Right. But there was no place for me to say, these are my emotions, these are my feelings, this is what I'm doing. I also recognize, and I've been there and I've helped others, that when you're in that position, your self-awareness completely goes tunnel vision, doesn't
Yeah, it sure does. Absolutely.
if
Yeah.
you're worried about paying a bill, you're so focused on how you're going to pay that bill, you miss all these opportunities in your blind spot that has just gotten wider.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that support is so instrumental, which coincidentally, I am hosting a 3-day masterclass next week, Monday through Wednesday, called Leading the Regenerative Revolution. And it's for women in Regen Ag who don't feel seen, don't feel heard, and how we can walk into that authority that we have by nature to recognize that, and just to have a container to come in. I see you, I hear you, been there, done that. I'm with you
God,
on this walk.
I wish I was going to that. That sounds amazing.
Yeah, you're going to be in Ecuador, but it's 1 hour a day at noon Central Standard Time, and there is replays if you
Wait, you
sign up.
said it's next week?
Next week.
I go the following week.
Okay, so yeah,
I'll
so
talk
you
to
can,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Cool.
I'll share the link on the show notes. This should be out today.
Okay.
And we didn't go off topic because this podcast is about wherever the conversation leads us.
No, I think what you were bringing up about being isolated, I think it's so ironic that we're, with technology, the most connected we've ever been to other people. And yet I feel like there is this chasm of loneliness that is so deep through so many people. And I know I've experienced that this year. Just recently stopped all social media for a while. I think I've been off all social media for about 2.5 months. It's been so good. It's been
You
so
have
good.
more time.
I cut out all the noise. Really, it's just been. Now I do miss. I miss looking at. I love to take photographs, so I miss posting and I miss looking at people's photographs. But I don't miss the political conversations, and I don't miss, I don't know, drama or whatever. Maybe it's not drama. Maybe it's just superficialness.
Sure.
Yeah.
Because there is a lot of that on social media.
So much. Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's been really good for me. But now I have all these Hoffman friends that are like, when you go through an experience like we went through in California, you develop some deep friendships very quickly.
Of course.
So now I'm like, oh, maybe I should get back on Instagram. So we'll see. We'll see. But I think what you were talking about was just like this isolation and dealing with issues that are complex and where you really need to reach out to someone. In the farming community, especially in the regen community, if a farmer is in a conventional system and is shifting to regen, he or she might find himself in the most lonely place there is, because now they've lost their community.
Right.
I think that we really need to look at ways to bring people together on a real level, like,
because the transition is so hard.
The transition is so hard.
The learning curve, the risk that we're having to tolerate
Yeah.
the expenses. Most conventional farmers have a huge debt load because of equipment. You know, that debt still needs to be paid off.
Absolutely. Yeah, it can be very lonely. And yeah, I don't know what the solution is, but I think that there has to be a way to build real community,
Mhm.
not just like a pat on the back. Are you doing okay? Okay, great. Good to see you. Okay, what's really up? Like, how can we help you as a community? How can we support you, surround you, whatever? Yeah, I think that's missing. And I
It is
think,
missing, but it's hard because egos get in the way.
oh my God, yes.
And so that's where the trust factor you just shared, the Hoffman group, you bonded, right? There's a trust factor because there was a lot of intense sharing and vulnerability.
Vulnerability.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. In case anyone wants to do Hoffman, there were so many things that happened that were just like life changing. But our introduction to each other, and this is like 39 people that you don't know, and you're only using your first name, no last names, and you're not using what you do for a living, which is, I've never been in a situation like that. I think of myself as a farmer, a land steward, and not to talk about that. I'm just me. But yeah, just our opening was, I'll never forget it. The pain in my heart that I feel is, and then you just talk.
Oh gosh, what a lovely opening.
It was intense and it was beautiful.
That's gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
So bringing it back to Heifer, as you work with these other cultures, I know you work with the community and I know you have to work with the culture, but how do you support the women, especially when they're not able to make the decisions, but they're doing all the labor, they're seeing the result of the work, they're recognizing maybe this isn't working.
Right.
How are those dynamics being addressed or not?
Yeah, no, they are being addressed. And we use a training called the 12 cornerstones. And there's big cornerstones that we believe in Heifer. And I used to have a list right here and I don't have it anymore, but I mentioned spirituality, caring and sharing. How do we care and how do we share and take care of each other in a community? This intensive training. So Heifer doesn't go into a community and be like, oh, you want a cow? Here's a cow. Sometimes it could take years for a community to go through the training. But one of the aspects of the training is really getting to the root of gender equity and decision making. And in some cultures that have just this incredibly, I don't know, male centric, I don't know, culture where men make all the decisions, women are the workers, they have no voice. We actually see in those cultures radical shifts. And like in Nepal, women talking about, I signed a check from the bank.
Wow.
Or, yeah, countries like Nepal, India, just huge radical changes in family structure, dynamic, women's role, not just workers, but landowners, decision makers, all of those things. So, yeah, it's powerful. It's very, very powerful.
Yeah, we take so much stuff for granted here in the States.
Yeah.
So with that said, what could ranchers and farmers here in the US learn from the smallholding farmers globally? What would be one or two things that US farmers and ranchers could really incorporate into their?
I think I would say it's going to sound corny. One thing that I was going to say might sound corny, but the importance of relationships within the community, the relationships with your neighbor, building those webs of support. We definitely see that in the countries that we work with. just thinking about the work in Honduras, like how closely the heifer technicians, the technical assistants, the relationships that they build with the farmers that they're working with. Because in Honduras, the cattle culture is extremely male dominated. But by bringing in things like monitoring and holistic planning and holistic management, families are getting more involved, and that's really encouraging. Just sitting down for a meal when you go to a house. Here, when we go here at work, when we arrive to start a job or something, it's just good to see you. Let's get to work. In Honduras, when we go visit a family and we're going to work with a farmer, we probably spend 2 hours drinking coffee and sitting on the porch and watching the birds and talking and looking at the new grandchild and all of those things before work is ever even mentioned. So there is just a different human dynamic and a different relationship. And I think I think that would be good for us to take note of and to pick up some of those habits. Then what was the other thing that I was going to say?
Let me share something that just happened to me while you think of your second one. So we had Winter Storm Fern hit us a couple of weeks back, and in preparing for the winter storm, because my brain was somewhere else, I drove through a pasture that I knew was waterlogged because there had been a leak in my water system out to the pastures. I had fixed it that previous weekend. I don't know why I thought I could drive through. Anyway, I got the mule stuck.
Yeah.
So then I think I can bring in my truck, my 4x4 truck, and be in this one area, and I can pull it out. Promptly got the truck stuck.
Oh no.
So because I was born and raised in third world countries, even though I've only been here 6 years, I have built some relationships so that I could call. Well, I called several people saying, but it was a Friday, so some of them were at work. I said, can you come and pull out my vehicles?
Yeah. Yeah.
So my neighbor came and pulled me out. And then the storm came in Friday night, freezing rain. And I had put the cattle into an area where they were going to be protected from the wind and stuff. But what I had forgotten to account for was freezing rain on polywire.
Oh yeah.
Will dip the wire. So Saturday morning, I went out to go check them, and the cattle were gone. Absolutely gone. They were not they were not in the pasture. They weren't in the paddock, but they weren't even in the pasture. So I started panicking, and I decided to go get my truck to try to drive through the property again because of the stress of not having found the animals where they're supposed. I got the truck stuck again.
No.
Same spot.
Oh gosh. Okay.
So I called the neighbor. He's Christine. I'm like, I know.
Oh,
and he came later that day and fixed it. In the meantime, I'm panicking about these animals. Sure. Where are they? Are they on the road? And I called another neighbor. I said, can you come with your truck so that we can drive the roads to see if we can find these cattle? So he came, we drove west, went to the dead end, didn't find anything, and then came back and drove past the ranch. I happened to look up the driveway, and the cattle were in my front pasture. They had gone to my neighbor's, and my neighbor had herded them back to the property. That for me was like, this is community. This is why I cannot do this alone. I need other people.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Oh gosh, yes, we do. We need other people for sure. I was trying to think of probably around technology. Like, I feel like in our culture, we buy our way out of everything, or we just discard and replace, or not saying that we don't value our livestock, but sometimes I feel like it's just, oh, it's farming, it happens, we're going to lose livestock. If a Nepalese family loses a goat, that's huge. It's not just, oh, we'll get another one. So just the, I don't know, intentionality on using what you have, using the resources that you have, and being content with them, and then the value of life, just like livestock and relationships.
Yeah. And I think that having been born and raised in Latin America, third world country, and having the political instability and economic instability, there's a lot more resilience. There's a lot more, not self-sufficiency, but recognizing that we can't do this alone, that we need to be in community, but we also need to make do with what we've got. And here in the US, in the I came here in 1983 for the first time. And so in all of those years, I recognize we tend to have a very disposable income. We it's very consumeristic, and we dispose. Many people have storage units where they've been paying for a storage unit for 10, 20 years with the stuff that they purchased, they're not using, and yet.
Yep.
So Donna, I've asked you a lot of questions. Anything that you wanted to bring up that we didn't address, didn't discuss, that you wanted to share with the listeners?
I guess one thing that I would want to share is that Heifer USA at Heifer Ranch, we're really shifting our focus on training. So in the near future, you're going to see a lot more offerings for courses at the ranch, convening opportunities for things like regenerative festivals or film nights at the ranch, that kind of thing. We do have lodging. COVID happened, we got quiet for a long time, and now we're really realizing that we have such an opportunity and the resources in terms of having this ranch as a learning facility to host trainings and get people here. So in addition to holistic management that we teach through the Savory Institute, there are lots of livestock courses coming up. So would encourage people to come. The other thing is our YouTube channel. Really would love people to take a look at it. We have, oh my gosh, so much content on our YouTube channel, which is Heifer USA, courses on chickens and cattle and land management and all kinds of things. So check that out.
And I'll put links in the show notes.
Awesome.
Donna, thank you so much. Always a privilege to sit and talk to you.
Same goes.
We could go on forever, but maybe we'll do a second recording.
I'd love to. And I keep saying, I have to come visit you in Texas. I'm going to make that happen.
Yeah, and I need to come visit you.
Please, anytime. The door's always open.
All right. Thanks for listening to Regenerative Agriculture, Thriving as a Modern Rancher. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe, share with fellow ranchers, and leave a review. Together we can regenerate our lands, our profits, and our lives. Until next time, keep thriving.